The Emperor's Children are here, and look, yes, they have done horrific things to innocent people in the pursuit of endless pleasure, but they look great while doing it. So today I'm going to show you 6 different schemes and make it super simple to paint them. Let's get started. The first scheme we'll be tackling today is the classic pink and black. I've started with an undercoat of Grey Seer spray as it's the perfect middle ground to build up or down with. Here's the paints I've used. This scheme looks incredible and is unlike anything else in the Warhammer 40k universe, so it's loads of fun to paint. If you want to know more about the paints and techniques used in this video, check out our Citadel Colour Painting Essentials playlist on our official YouTube channel. Looking over the models, there doesn't seem to be a specific area that needs to be black and pink on each model, so you can pick exactly where you want the colours to go without fear. However, if you are struggling, you can always copy one of the box art colour schemes. I've started with a base coat of Corvus Black. It's a really dark grey and it makes it easier for us to add shadows and highlights onto the model without it looking really flat. Then, with Emperor's Children, I've built up a solid coat by building up the colour with thinned layers. To get a really bright colour, make sure you apply a few coats and to take your time. Grey Knight Steel is the lightest silver metallic base coat we have in the range, so I'll use that to paint the armour trim next. When that's dry, around the recesses of the black armour, I've used Black Legion contrast paint to run into the recesses. Black Legion is an extremely dark black that will help give real definition to the armour. Before applying a recess wash to the pink armour, I'll apply Retributor armour to any of the fine details like the eagle wing on the shoulder pad. This is because I will use the same paint to recess shade the pink and the armour trim at the same time. Speaking of which, we've moved on to Doomfire Magenta to do the very same thing. Next, I've used Druchii Violet on the weapons and the gold accessories. I've then thinned it down 1 part shade to 3 parts Lamia medium onto the silver trim as well. I'll paint the leather with Dryad Bark. I'll also paint the face this colour too. Then with Bloodreaver Flesh, I've done a quick highlight to the nose, mouth and any other areas where the skin is pulled taut or is scarred. Then I've painted the tassels and pipes with Gauss Blaster Green. When that's dry, I'm going to add some highlights to the black and the pink. I'll start with Fenrisian Grey and a medium layer brush to grab all of the edges of the black armour. Then with Fulgrim Pink, I'll do the same thing with the pink armour, going around any of the edges that are really sharp to add a crisp highlight. The armour is looking really good, so I'm going to push the silver trim even further with Stormhost Silver. Hexwraith Flame gives a really subtle pastel green effect and works really well over the tassels, hair knots and gemstones. I've added some pink horror to the face and I've focused around the scars and pierced skin even further. Finally, Liberator Gold will be the perfect highlight colour for the gold, as it's super shiny and fits in with the ostentatious detailing, finishing the model. There we go! Our first of 6 Emperor's Children schemes in all their glory. Let's move on to the next one. The Constrictors subfaction take inspiration from the original Emperor's Children scheme, with opposing light and dark purples. With an undercoat of Grey Seer spray, I'll be able to build up or down to either of these easily. The paints I've used are on screen now as well. Always feel free though to change whatever colours we've suggested. They're your models, you can paint them however you wish. I've started with Dakala Lilac and Nagaroth Night as my starting point for the 2 purples. As you can see, I'm quite messy with these, but I'll neaten it up with the next few colours. Just make sure you've applied a few coats of both the light and dark purple before you move on to the next. Then, for any of the leathery skin draped across the armour, I've used Barak Nar Burgundy. This is a really rich maroon colour with hints of purple. As before, I've used Black Legion to paint the undersuit as it goes on really quick and easily and looks great. I've built up the metallics next. For the trim, I've used Lead Belcher, but any of the silver metallics will work. Then Retributor Armour to paint the details again. These 2 are amazing workhorses and are staples of my paint rack. Rhinox Hide is next for the leather. It ties into the darker scheme really well and doesn't take your eye away from the scheme in general. Now we've painted all the base colours, we'll apply a coat of Norn oil over the entire model with the exception of the light purple. This will tie all the colours together and will add definition into the recesses. This is much quicker than applying a recess shade like with the previous scheme, but it isn't as accurate, so just watch out for any pooling over the model. Then over the lilac, we've used Magos Purple to add some rich colour into the model. When all the paint is dry, I'm going to re-establish some Dakala Lilac to the shoulder pads and helmet, taking care to leave some of the Magos Purple in the recesses showing through. Build this up with a few layers to get a solid result. Screamer Pink's next. It's the perfect highlight to the rich maroon. It also helps bring out the pink tones back into the red. To highlight the purple and keep it quite dark, I'm going to use Venetian Purple next. This is really subtle, but it does add definition to the edges. I'll use Stormhost Silver again for the highlight on the trim. It's super bright and is perfect for the decadent Emperor's Children. I've also dotted some onto the lenses because as a final step I'm going to add some Crocscore scales into the eyes. This will keep the metallic look underneath whilst tinting it green. I really like the contrasting colours in this scheme, and I'd love to see it on a larger model like a Helldrake or a Land Raider. I absolutely love the original Noise Marine colour scheme, which is all the colours. So I thought it would be a shame if we didn't try and recreate it with one of the new models. I'm planning on using contrast paints liberally, so I've started with an undercoat of White Scar spray. Every section of the model has a different colour, so when you're painting these at home, feel free to change whatever part you'd like to suit your own tastes. The joy of this scheme is that there's so many different colours and techniques used that you can mix and match them to your heart's desire. Slaanesh will be pleased. I've started blocking in all the colours with contrast paints, beginning with Hexwraith Flame. Then moving on to Frostheart, Imperial Fist and Doomfire Magenta, going from section to section and letting them dry before applying another. Then for the Doom Siren I've used Baal Red. For any of the remaining white on the panels, I've shaded them with Soulblight Grey. With the model starting to take shape, I've decided to have some fun. With a medium layer brush and some Corvus Black, I've painted the chest piece, but I've also added some zebra print to one of the fabrics and the arm panels too. Just keep a really sharp point to your brush and draw wiggly lines down the centre. I found you need much less paint than you think. Now for the armour trim, I've used Balthazar Gold as my base, as it will make a great brassy undertone, perfect for a gold highlight later. For the rest of the silver, I've used Leadbelcher paint again, as it just works, and has amazing coverage in one coat. For any of the really fancy details, like any jewellery and the eyes, I've used Retributor Armour. I've also painted the undersuit in this colour too. Gauss Blaster Green is next for the ponytail and any of the pipes on the weapon. Keep this paint thin and apply a few coats if you need to. For his iconic leopard print boots, I'm going to apply Rhinox hide in small circles sporadically over the armour. If you've accidentally got any paint on the yellow, then you can sneakily cover it up with this paint. When it's dry, we'll get Squig Orange and paint even smaller circles into the leopard print dots to give the effect a really cool finish. With all those paints on, you can leave the model here if you want to. But Slaanesh is all about excess, so I'm going to give another highlight to most of the other colours to really make it pop. To start with, Liberator Gold is the perfect choice to add a really crisp highlight to the Balthazar Gold and the Retributor Armour too. There's loads of trim on the model, so take your time. For the silver, we'll apply a highlight of Stormhost Silver, as it's the perfect paint for a bright Slaaneshi silver. Now with all the metallic paints highlighted, we're going to run through all the rest of the colours and add definition to the sharpest edges. I've used, deep breath, Wild Red Red, Fenrisian Grey, Temple Guard Blue, Flash Gitz Yellow, Emperor's Children Pink, Gauss Blaster Green, Night Questor Flesh, and finally, Blue Horror. Talk about excess. I think this iconic scheme is surprisingly easy to do. We've taken advantage of the super bright colours offered by the contrast paint range. It does take quite a bit of patience though. Next, the Glittering Myriad. They have this super unique crisp white armour and turquoise recesses leading into the trim. So an undercoat of White Scar will make achieving this dead easy. I'll apply Soulblight Grey as an all over shade. This adds a really subtle definition into the recesses. So when it's dry, I'll take White Scar and a medium dry brush to apply a dry brush over the entire model. If there are any areas where the shade is pulled or it's a little bit too dark, you can add a little more dry brushing to lighten them up. To add the distinctive blue-green effect into the white recesses, I'll thin some Crocscore scales with shading medium. Then with a medium layer brush, I'll apply it into the gap where the trim meets the armour. You can be quite messy at this stage, as we will tidy up the trim in the next step. Now with Liberator Gold, carefully block in the armour trim and try to avoid painting any of the blue. You can go back and reapply Crocscore scales if you need to. In the very deepest parts of the trim, I'll add Magos Purple. I'll only use the tiniest amount to give a hint of purple into the metal. Then with a really small amount of Stormhost Silver, we'll highlight the most prominent edges of the trim to give a subtle highlight. Painting white can be tricky, but by starting with a white base coat and shading it down, we can make the job much easier than we think. We're on a roll, so let's keep going into the next scheme. Next up, the Threnodic Choir. Here are the paints I've used. This is very different to the normal non-metallic colour schemes the Emperor's Children are known for. The majority of this scheme is gold, so we're going to start with an undercoat of Retributor Armour Spray. Then I'll apply a liberal dry brush of Liberator Gold over the entire model to add definition. When it's dry, I'll apply an all-over coat of Guilliman Flesh, as it's got a slight pinky undertone that will help bring out the yellow in the gold and add a rich brown into the recesses. I'll go back in with another Liberator Gold dry brush to really make the armour pop. Leadbelcher is applied onto the trim next. It's not too bright and it's not too dark, so it's the perfect middle point to not overshadow the gold. To tie everything together, we'll apply an all-over shade of Magos Purple with Lahmian Medium mixed in to bring out the rich gold and add a pink tinge to the trim too. I've done this about 1 part Magos Purple to 1 part Lahmian Medium. This is a super quick scheme if you want to get your models on the tabletop in no time at all. For the final scheme, I'm going to try out a metallic purple. The paints are on screen now. I want this to be super quick and easy, so I'm going to start with an undercoat of Leadbelcher spray. To immediately add some definition, I'm going to apply Nuln Oil over the entire model. Just watch out for any pooling. When the shade is dry, I'll apply a heavy dry brush of Stormhost Silver. This is because when I apply a contrast paint over the top of the model, the edges will shine through even more. Luxian Purple is one of my favourite contrast paints, and I think it will work really well for this scheme. I'm going from section to section, blocking in the armour to get even coverage, whilst avoiding the trim as best as I can. Afterwards, I've applied a thick layer of Ardcoat over the purple to make it even shinier and to protect it at the same time. For a final really cool finish, I've dry brushed Stormhost Silver again over the entire model to highlight everything in one go. Easy peasy. This is another quick scheme and it's really eye-catching. Perfect to dazzle your enemies into submission. There we go. Our 6 schemes have been offered to Fulgrim and they are very, very pleased. We'd love to see what you do with them too, but just keep them family friendly. For more painting videos, head over to our YouTube channel. If you need more help, you can always head to one of our Warhammer stores where our friendly staff will be more than happy to help. Thank you for watching and have fun painting. See you later.